Welcome to Ballsy, the podcast where I interview successful artists and creators on how they got the balls to sell their art and turn their practice into a profitable business. As a former entrepreneur turned artist, I realized that being an artist is basically like running a small startup. And you, the artist, are the CEO. I talk to artists about their businesses, talk real numbers, growth hacks, tools and tricks, and how they were ballsy enough to make that their career. Dimitri, welcome to Ballsy. For those who have the balls to sell some art, of which it seems like you sell a lot of. I don't want to murder your last name. I'll let you say it.
Likisas.
Likisas. See, I would have murdered it. Dimitri Likisas, everybody. So usually to start, I always ask the artist just to tell the audience a little bit about their work. I'll put all your social links in all the notes, but give us a little background on what your work is, just from a visual perspective, and then we'll jump right in to the business side of it.
Okay, so my work is all about optical art, and the theoretical name is pointillism, so I paint dots. And because I paint dots, and why is it optical? Because you both have an abstract perspective from it, and also a figurative aspect. If you have a distance to the work, those dots come together, and it's like a figurative image that you see. But from close by, it's a very abstract work with just colored dots, so that's what I do.
By the way, I've been a huge fan of your work for a long time. And as you can tell, my work is a 3D interpretation of your work. And I will be the first to admit there was one point when I was going to do like a 3D interpretation. I was like, I was going to think I'm copying you. So I backed off and took a slightly different tact. But there was a moment when I was like starting to lay out dots like yours.
No problem.
Anyhow, it has almost like a dot matrixy kind of, or like some kind of old computer art kind of vibe to it, which I think is really beautiful and cool. And just this has probably been my one technical question. Do you literally paint each circle yourself, or is it like more of a social?
I do, yeah.
Wow, so you must have steady hand.
With a brush.
Real, and how do you line them up so they're all so perfect?
Very basically, how would anybody would do it? Just you measure the measuring tape, you put your lines at so much centimeters, you space them out. So you first make a calculation how many dots that I need. Like you said, a dot matrix. I just mark the lines, and then with a big ruler, I make the lines in pencil, and then I just start. But you don't get the dots right at the first time, but that doesn't matter. I'm doing the coloring, and the dots are not super perfect. And then
okay.
When all that is done, when the paint is dry, and it does not dry, I don't use acrylics, I use oil paint. So it takes, It depends on which season I'm in. I'm here in Europe now. It takes 2 days to dry. Then I will adjust. And that could be with a scraper. I would scrape around the edge. It's almost like sculpting now to make my circle better.
Yeah, because they're all dead perfect. Like it looks like the fact that you paint those by hand
perfect.
Is fascinating because it looks like they're either printed or machine done or silkscreen laid. And
no.
Okay, so I'm even more impressed. That's even my hand is not particularly steady, and so I could paint 100 circles and I would have 100 different size circles.
Yeah, it's difficult. But it's all about, again, the correction afterwards. They are not perfect from the first time.
So I always try to start with a bit of context. How long have you been an artist? And we usually discuss how you decided to become an artist.
Already from a kid, I've been very creative. All from school, I painted Americana. I was born in Belgium in 1969. We're about the same age. And American stuff was very cool. And I painted on jeans jackets in the back. I painted all the hockey game logos from the. Now I don't remember anymore. But it's not NBA, not basketball. That was not popular then. It was more. I think it was baseball. All the baseball logos of the American teams, and I painted it in the back. So from there on, it started really from 15 years old, 16 years old. And I've been always painting on the side. Life comes in the way and you have to do it. You have to work. I always work at newspapers, so that's where my style comes from, like this dot matrix that you say, because in the printing world we have CMYK.
Yeah.
If you take a lens and you look very close to a print, you can see these dots. And I've always been fascinated the art from Roy Lichtenstein with that dot pattern, and I always try to figure out how did he do it. But I figured out from watching documentaries, he had a steel grid with dots, holes basically, which he with a toothbrush with a color, that's how he got his dot pattern.
That's how I thought yours was.
Yeah. No. But the difference is that my color has a separate color. Each dot is a separate color to make that image.
Now, do you mix each one? Do you mix each color, or do you just have it? Wow.
I mix each color, yeah.
Okay, I have so many questions.
Going back to how I became an artist, so to speak. Yeah, all my life I've been painting, then working in the newspaper. I painted on the side. At one time I lived in the Caribbean for 23 years on St. Martin, the island in St. Martin.
Yep.
And so I worked at the newspaper there, 3 different newspapers actually, and I was a graphic designer. And the dream is always for anyone to improve in your life. It means side hustling and hoping that your side hustle would make as much income as your salary. And once that is true, boom, you leave your job and you continue. That has always been the goal. And it had, let's say, almost impossible to get there. But that was always the goal. I had a small art gallery on St. Martin, but that didn't pick up well. My art was also different than what I'm painting today. When you're an artist I can genuinely tell, I cannot say from a kid, which I did paint from a kid, but let's say from working at the newspaper, always on the side was painting in a different style of today, but I always had circles. And in your lifetime as an artist, I want to say, you are a loner. You cannot rely on anybody. Am I doing this right? Should I do it this way? Maybe I gotta try this. So this is the life of an artist. And why I'm saying this is because on the island of St. Martin, they were painters and they were painting the typical touristic images. And I did not want to do this. I did not want to paint a beach with a palm tree and a little canoe there. I did not want to do this. You could have done this. Sure. And make a little side money, but that's like giving in. I did not want to do this, but this is also very tough. It depends on where your level is. You can say, shit, I need money. I'm going to paint the palm tree and the little ocean with a little boat and take $100 and wow, things are great. So with my art, I did not really had success. I was on St. Martin, mostly American tourists. And I sold left, but I advertised in American magazine, art news. But also, if you are a salary worker, these ads are very expensive. You don't really get results. It's a waste of money. So it's always a hustle, always a struggle.